What is going on, guys? Duranathor here, and today I'm bringing you a Ryzeal Melodious deck profile. I know you can see Alistair, Invocation and Meltdown, the sort of an Invocation package at the bottom. I will get to that in a moment, and I will let you know what cards I would play instead of. But going through, I'll start off with the Melodious cards. We have 1 couplet, 3 refrain. We then have the 1 concerto to search with the couplet. We have soprano and canon as the level 4s, and 3 ostinato. Ideally, you want to see ostinato in your starting hand, but if you see refrain, it's not too much of a problem, because you can search the couplet, get the concerto, use them both, get bark, summon soprano, soprano bark to make Schubert, get the draw from concerto, bark effect to get back the soprano. So it's not ideal. You want to see ostinato. You don't really want to see soprano or canon. You don't want to see concerto, and you also don't really want to see couplet unless you've got another Melodious in your hand. So ideally you want to see ostinato. If you see refrain, you're not too worried, but you don't really want to see the other ones. For the Ryzeals, 3 ice, 3 sword, 3 exed, 1 node. I am playing a plug-in and a cross, because it's so easy to get level 4s with the Melodious cards. So like you do your whole Melodious combo and you end up with a spare level 4, so you only need sort of 1 of the Ryzeal monsters. If you have ostinato, you don't even use your normal summon, so you just normal ice, special, sword search, exed to put itself down. You don't get the search from exed because you've got the Melodious monsters, but you know, you got your ice, you got your sword, you got your exed. You go overlay into duo drive, search plugin and cross, search cross and node. Yeah, it works quite well because it leaves level 4s on the board. Hand trap wise, I'm playing 3 Ash, 3 Veiler, 3 Imperm, and Caught by the Grave and 3 Triple Tactics. I wouldn't really call these hand traps, but Caught by the Grave is just a great card. I don't see why you would ever not play it. Go first, you negate a hand trap your opponent plays. You go second, you negate an effect or remove a card from their graveyard. Like it's just a really, really good card, and I don't see a downside to playing it. Triple Tactics talent. Sometimes it can be helpful to draw 2. Most of the time, you're already going to have all of the pieces that you want, so you can look at your opponent's hand and shuffle a card into the deck, getting rid of something. If they hand trap you, and then you shuffle another one back in, it leaves your opponents with 3 cards, 1 of which you chose to put back in the deck, so you're obviously going to be hitting like one of their starters. Or you could hit another one of their hand traps so that you can combo off a little bit better. I kind of flick between Triple Tactics talent and cross out as to which I prefer. It just depends what hand traps are being played at our locals at the time, but if I was to go to a bigger event with this, I'd probably main like 2 talent and a thrust, or like 2 thrust and a talent, something like that. The only problem is there's not really too much you want to search, like unless you get bestialed and your opponent is controlling a monster, then you can thrust to search for ostinato, you can thrust to search for like, you know, invocation if you really wanted to, or you thrust to search talents to draw 2. Like, you know. But I think for the locals at the moment, talents is the better. Cross out in the side. So on to the invoked. So 3 Alistair, 3 Meltdown, and an invocation. You never want to see the invocation. It's just a hard solid brick because you need to have, you know, Alistair to do anything with it. Whereas concerto, you've got 6 targets. With invocation, you've only got 3. And you also kind of, you have to do something else with Alistair. You either have to link it off into the Artemis or have a Ryzeal or a Melodious in your graveyard for the invocation. Or even in your hand if you do it that way, but you really, really don't want to be using invocation to fuse from your hand. So invocation is just like a very, very hard break. You don't want to see it. In the same way, as I said, concerto is a bit more forgiving. Because if you see, say, concerto and ostinato, like, you're okay. Like, so I said 6, but you've got 9 other cards that kind of partner with concerto, whereas invocation, you've only got 3 solid ones. Because you could have invocation and meltdown. You could meltdown, it gets ashed. Yeah, now invocation is completely dead in your hand. I know the same could be said for the ostinato. They are more likely to probably ash the Alistair. The reason I'm playing it is because I've been playing invoked Shadow Dogmatica for a long time, and people kind of were just shotgunning hand traps to hit Meltdown or Alistair because they knew they were the like break points of the deck. So I would say like activate Meltdown, someone would hold their ash thinking I was going to summon Alistair, I'd activate Ostinato. Obviously they can't ash it because of Meltdown, it works that way as well, but if they did, it wastes their ash. And also, like, they can't ash the Bark, they can't Veiler or Imperm the Bark's effect when it's summoned, because Meltdown says your opponent can't respond. So Meltdown works really well with the Melodious cards because of the fusing capabilities, but it's not something I would play at a big event. If I was to go to a big event, I'd probably put 3 draw in here and then play 3 Bonfire. The only reason Bonfire isn't in here is because you've got, 9 Ryzeal that can start you off, 6 Melodious that can start you off, and then 6 of the invocation stuff that can start you off. Obviously the Melodious stuff partners itself well with the Ryzeals because it's level 4, and you can go a lot further than you can. You know, if you normal summon Alistair, it gets Veilered. You have to have Exed or Ice, because Sword needs a Ryzeal somewhere, Node needs an Xyz. So you need Ice or X to be able to kind of keep going with it. But, you know, if you've done your full Melodious combo, you have your level 4, your normal summon Alistair, they ash the Alistair, or, you know, Veiler or Imperm the Alistair if they haven't hit anything else for some reason in the combo. You can then just use the leftover level 4 Melodious and Alistair to go into Duo Drive to search for, Sword and X, I guess, because Sword will then search you Ice. So it does work well, it's just not something I'd play at a big event. Maybe I would to catch someone off guard, but I think there's just, there's no reason to play it. You could play, 3 Droll, 3 Bonfire, and you'd be fine. You'd be fine. So for the invoked stuff, we have 2 Mechaba and a Purgatrio. Purgatrio works well because Sword, Node, and Duo Drive are fires. And obviously Ash Blossom. I was playing Caliga because it's a level 4, but you need 2 Alistairs to be able to do anything with it because it requires Alistair and a Dark monster. I mean, like, if your opponent's playing Bestial things and it's the second turn, you can always put down a Caliga just to mitigate things. And Caliga's a level 4 for you to overlay. So, yeah, but I have never summoned Purgatrio. It's just helpful to have it there, just in case you need to. Mechaba, on the other hand, as a negate, you add back the Alistair after you've done everything, so you've got a monster negate in your hand. Most of the time you're going to be sat there with a spell as well. So you've got a monster and a spell negate. Once again, the deck doesn't need it, but it's just handy to have. If I were to continue and take out the Alistair package, I would probably put in a Bloom Diva. I will just search that a moment. So that if they do out your Twirl, you can summon a Bloom Diva. And then maybe 1 more of each of the Ryzeals, just so you've got them there. We'd also then have to take out the Artemis. You'd probably play like a Little Knight, maybe. I know, I'd have to kind of go through everything. There is also the option of playing like more rank 4s. Yeah, there's always rank 4s that you could play. But for the time being, 2 Mechaba and a Purgatrio. The Melodious, we got Etwell, we got Bark, and we got Schuberta. Having a quick effect banish 3 from either graveyard is great. Being able to move it off board so your opponent can't stop you doing it, and then being able to do it again in the end phase, because it says it can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. Etwell, removes it from the field. So you can Schuberta twice in the same turn because it comes back in the end phase and you have a response window. Bark is the main sort of centerpiece. You Ostinato for Bark. You summon Refrain, you add Couplet. You've sent Soprano and Cannon, reveal Couplet, summon Soprano, Soprano effect, add back Cannon, special Cannon, Couplet scale, Concerto, Concerto, use Refrain and Couplet, make Schuberta, Soprano effect, use Soprano, Cannon, and Bark, make a Twirl. Concerto to put it to the bottom draw 1, Bark to summon either Soprano or Cannon because it's just another level 4 to have on board, and then you've got a Banish 3, potentially Banish 6, and a Banish your both Melodious is to bounce 2 face-up cards to your opponent's hand. And that's before you normal summon. Playing 2 Detonator and 1 Duo Drive, I feel like this is just kind of the best way to play it, because if you do have X'd, you can send either Eclipse Twins, or you can send a Detonator if you want another material under the Duo Drive. Most of the time you'll be X'd-ing, send Eclipse Twins, but there is the option to send 1 Detonator to put it under a Duo Drive. Generic rank 4s, we've got Abyss Dweller and Bagushka. Bagushka works really well, because if you do end up on, say, Bark and Etwell, because you can Soprano effect to put the Bark back if you don't add the cannon straight away. Or you can end on Bark and Schubert with Bagushka in defense mode. Bark says the activated effects of your Melodious fusions can't be negated, so even with a defense mode Bagushka, your Schubert is still going through. Your Etwell can still go through. But most of the time you'll be slapping down a Dweller, because Dweller's just dumb. Eclipse Twins and Aggregator for the sends from X. Yeah, Eclipse Twins is great if you probably like game 2 and 3 when your opponent has sided things in that will get rid of your board. Aggregator for if you go in first game 1, because it's a detach to negate. Gravity Control is purely there if Bark gets impermed or veiled. So you can link off the Bark to special summon back one of the level 4s that you sent with Ostinato. And then Artemis is there purely as a link off for Alistair, just in case you don't have a Melodious or a Ryzeal in your grave already. But yeah, I'd you know, I'm going to play this again for another week or 2, just because it's a bit fun, and I haven't played everyone at the locals, so a couple people think I'm still on Shadow Invoked. But you've got the option to take these 4 out and put any other 4 in. Onto the side deck, I sided Droll just because I didn't feel like it was worth maining. In hindsight, probably should have mained it. Side Crossout. As I said, I switched between Tactics and Crossout. I think because I was siding the Droll and I've only got Ash Veiler and Imperm. You like the argument there is you can cross out one of the Ryzeals. No one else is playing Melodious. A couple other people are playing the Ryzeal stuff. But I don't feel like it was worth maining the Crossout because it didn't do much as the talents. If I normal summon Alistair, it gets Effect Veiled. I can talents to draw 2 and see if I hit a Ryzeal. Whereas with Crossout, like, you cross out, send the Veiler, and then you end up on a Mechaba. I feel like Tactics was the better one at the moment. I am sort of debating on Thrust as well. Like Thrust, Talents, and Crossout, kind of the 3 cards I sort of rotate depending on what I feel like playing at the time and kind of who is at the locals. But I think if I were to go to a big event once again, probably 2 Thrust, 1 Talent, side the Crossout. Dimensional Barrier, because the card's dumb. Need to side it. It can win you a game. It can win you game 3. It can win you game 2 as well if you lose game 1 and go first. Evenly as a board breaker. And Solemn Judgment's just great for game 3 if you're not too close to time. I think if I were to kind of change up the deck, I'd take out the Invocation package. I would put in 3 Droll, 3 Bonfire, and then in the side, I'd probably put in 2 Lightning Storm and a Harpy Feather Duster just to have more of a board-breaking presence. And then, as I said, the fusions, I would take out the Invocation, the Invoked Mechabas, the Purgatory, or the Artemis. I put in a Bloom Diva. I would put in probably an SP, and then maybe another Detonator or a Duo Drive. Maybe the Timeless level 4, just in case you need that draw too. But from what I've been doing, this has been great. I am going to do a test hand, maybe 2, depending on what I get, just to kind of show you how the deck works. So bear with me just a moment, and we'll jump in and do some test hands. So I've just done a quick test hand, just to show you. I know my opponent has an Effect Veiler, but I think what I will do, I will just go through the combo and then kind of explain where people are more than likely going to Veiler. So you have to control no monsters, so you can Ostinato first. You summon the Bark, you send Soprano, you send Cannon. Always important to put the Bark in the extra monster zone so that if it does get Veiled or Impermed, you can go into Gravity Controller. You go to summon one from deck. This is probably where someone will Veiler or Imperm you, just to stop you getting the summon from the deck. The other place that someone could Veiler or Imperm you is on the Refrain summon, but then that does give you the level 4. So this will be where someone Veiler or Imperms you. If someone's going to Ash you, it will probably be the Refrain summon. Or they would have Ashed the Ostinato, hopefully. But if they didn't, they hit this. I'd say I'm not going to do it, but if you did, you could go into Gravity Controller. Gravity Controller gets you back the Soprano. You add the cannon back, and then because you control Melodious, you can special the cannon. Gives you 2 level 4s, you overlay for Duo Drive. But for the sake of the video, I'm not going to do it here. We would summon the Refrain. Refrain effect. Add the Couplet. Couplet effect to reveal itself. And you summon the Soprano. You use the Soprano effect here to add back the cannon to your hand. You special the cannon because you control Melodious. You can then scale the couplet, and before you do anything else, add the concerto, because as soon as you start using your Ryzeal stuff, you're locked out of it. And you would have nothing else on board to search the concerto. You concerto first to go for your Schuberta using the 2 pendulums. They have the effect of when a Melodious monster is fusion summoned, you can rescale them. Pop them back in the scale. I always tend to use the Refrain effect here, just to target one or the other, just to get rid of the last Refrain in deck, or, you know, another Refrain in deck, so you have something in graveyard. We then Soprano, Diffuse, using Bark and Cannon to go for Itwell. Concerto Chainlink 1, otherwise it misses timing. Bark Chainlink 2 to summon. You know, it doesn't matter which one you go for. I always just go for the Soprano again, because if I was playing the Bloom Diva, it would give me the option of fusing. Yeah, you can Pendulum summon the Ryzeals, only the light ones, as I believe Couplet locks you into it. But you could Pendulum summon both. I'm not going to. We haven't used our normal summon yet, so we could normal summon Sword to add Ice. But I think the better thing to do is special summon this, and we're going to send the Eclipse Twins to go for Ext. Because then we can overlay these 2 up at the top for Duo Drive. Duo Drive effect. You know, they could Veiler you here, but they would have already Veilered. So we've got Sword. We've got Ext. It's probably best just to go for Cross and plug in here. And activate Cross straight away. We're going to special summon a Sword. Sword effect to add Ice. Normal summon the Ice. Ice effect. Special summon Node. We can then, any of them apart from, no, the other 2, you want to keep Node on the board for a moment. To go for Detonator, Detonator effect. Pop the twins underneath. We can use Node effect, but what I'm going to do is use Plugin to special summon Ext from the graveyard. Because then that allows us to attach, I mean, probably Sword to Duo Drive. Now, we've only got 1 Ryzeal in the grave, so we can't use Cross, but with the 2 here, we can go for Dweller. And if you really wanted to, you could detach 1 to get your Cross draw. I feel like we have everything here that we need. We can also Pendulum summon the other Ext if we really wanted to, but there isn't a point. So what we have from this, we have 3 detaches to pop, one of which being twins if stuff does get destroyed. We've got a material on Duo Drive that we can take off for cross to negate a monster effect on resolution. We've got Dweller, which you will 100% be shotgunning in the standby phase to stop effects activating in the graveyard. You've got a quick effect, banish 3 from the grave. A quick effect on resolution, remove up to both Melodious monsters from play to bounce up to that many cards from your hand. So you don't even have to bounce if you don't want to. If you do, you get Schuberta back in the end phase, and you can do another banish of 3. So you've technically got a banish of 6 here, and we've got a Veiler in hand. I'm just going to press restart just to get one more test hand, see what we get. So, a bit more difficult here. We haven't got the ostinato. We've got the refrain, so we could attempt to search for couplet. It's completely up to you which line you would prefer to go down. Because we've got the ice, we can send one or the other. So we can either go down the Melodious line, or we can go down the invoked line. I think since we've already seen the invoked line, I would just do the Melodious line, because you would search, add couplet to go for bark to summon probably soprano to fuse them both into Schuberta. Bark would summon the soprano back from grave, and then you use that soprano effect to put the bark back into your extra deck, so you don't end up with a Twell, but you end up with Schuberta and the level 4. But we're going to normal summon the Alistair. Once again, I know the opponent has Ash. They will Ash you here because they don't want you adding an invocation. But for the sake of the video, I'm just going to add. If we use the ice effect, it does lock you in. So, you need to do this first. Special summon into the Artemis. Then invocation. Go for the Mechaba. Use the Artemis and the Alistair to get your Mechaba, which you can use as your monster negate now. You invocation, put the Alistair back to your hand. So it's always handy to hold on to Alistair because you can boost a fusion monster if you really need to. But what we're going to do here, special summon the ice, sending the refrain. Don't get anything from ice effect, but we can special summon the sword to add X. You know, if your opponent does Ash here now, you've got your Mechaba, but they would have already used it on Alistair, 100%. Sword effect to add X. X effect, yeah. If it was game 1, you'd probably send the aggregator, to be fair. But I always like sending the twins, just in case. Especially if your opponent makes you go first, send the twins. If you get the choice and go first, probably send the aggregator. We'll send the twins. Summon the X. Just the 2 into Duo Drive. Duo Drive effect. Detach them. You know, you're going to be adding the cross, and we've already done all of the other summons. So maybe plug in. But I think Node is probably the better shout here. Just because it's then a special summon that you can use. But plug it. Actually, we'll go for plug-in because it'd be helpful to get another material onto the Duo Drive. But if you go for nodes, like, you have the option of putting 2 back. We will cross. Plug in. Summon sword. Doesn't matter which one you go for. And then attach. Probably E. Ice, just 'cause it's not the one you want to draw. We can cross effect. Put back the plug-in and the ice. That's also another reason, you know, if we're adding an ice back. It doesn't matter which way you put them, but we get the draw one. And we draw a Veiler, which is great. And now we overlay into our detonator. Detonator effect. Pop the Eclipse Twins underneath. So it wasn't as good as when we had the Melodious things. Other than Mechaba, this would be a quick effect banish 3. So it's whichever you prefer. But once again, 3 under detonator including a twins, 1 under Duo Drive to detach for cross. a monster negate because we don't have anything else, but we've got an Ash and a Veiler, so we'll be discarding the Alistair as a monster negate. So like here, if your opponent, say, normal summons their Alistair, you Mechaba, discard one, banish it. Pretty much ends their turn. They could, you know, special summon Ice, but then you've got the Detonator Pop and the Cross negate. You've also got Veiler, so if they special the Ice, special the Sword, go into Duo Drive, you just Veiler the Duo Drive and then Detonator Pop. So there's lots of options. It is good. Just to reiterate, I don't feel like the deck needs the invocation stuff. Rather than an Alistair there, we would have had a Bonfire. So you would have Bonfired to bait out the Ash and then 100% gone into your Melodious combo, because you could have added Nodes, you could have added, you know, another Sword if you wanted to, another Ice, just so you had something else in hand. And we would have had a quick effect banish 3 rather than the Mechaba discard for a monster negate. But I feel like the deck doesn't need it. It's just a bit of fun. People thought I was still playing it. It baited out hand traps. Now that more people are aware that I'm playing the Melodious Ryzeal, as I said, I would take out the invocation things, put in Droll, put in Bonfires, and then for the extra deck, I would put in a Bloom Diva, yeah, maybe a second Bark, maybe a Bloom Diva and a Bark, just so then you've got options, and then, you know, it leaves space for 2 other rank 4s. But that is everything. If there's anything that I've missed or any questions that you guys have, please feel free to put them down in the comments. I will do my best to answer them. If there's something that you have in your mind and you're like, why on earth are you not playing this? Please also feel free to drop that in the comments. It genuinely could be I haven't thought of it. As always, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.